Alright, so this video we have two sections, the psychological and the physical, all about making more progress. I wouldn't necessarily say anywhere in life, but in a load and loads of realms. Alright, so let's just dive right into it. First off, we have a visual progress system. Not too long ago, I had read Atomic Habits. And in this book, he talked about his friend named Trent. And what Trent had is he created this visual progress system, right, known as the paperclip strategy. So essentially, the way it worked was he had two jars, one empty and one filled with, I think it was around 120 paperclips. The way it worked was, each and every time he'd make a sales call, he'd take this paperclip and he'd toss it into the other jar, right? And he'd make another sales call and another, and he'd try to fill up the next jar filled with paperclips and have the other one empty. And surprisingly enough, just to go to show you that this works, I think it was within 18 months, Trent had made about $5 million bringing it back to the firm and made over $75,000 each and every year in 18 months after creating the system, all those sales calls, right? The reason I put this in psychological, right? Like, I have three sections when it comes to psychological. And yes, there's physical involvement, but it's labeled psychological because it works a little bit more with your mind, right? And the way I think this section works, right, this paperclip strategy, is for a lot of things, like when it comes to video games or when it comes to performed bad habits, like addiction and stuff, you get the impression of not, okay, well, in video games, you get the impression of progress, right? It's false progress because it's obviously not real, but, and we've talked about this in a past video, but when it comes to bad addictions, you're under the impression that you can't really get that feeling somewhere else, right? And I guess it isn't too on topic, so we'll just stick with that sense of progress. In video games, it's immediate, right? That's why a lot of dudes just they love video games. They love the feeling of making progress. And this visual system is a little bit more difficult. Okay, it's a decent amount, a little bit more difficult, but I guess that also technically depends on how hard you work, right? I can't really think for you, and I'm trying to do less of that because I end up waffling about examples and then I fall off track just because I can't think for you. You have to think for yourself how you're going to build the system and examples of such. But what I will say is, for me, mine was, at least at one point, I should rework on that now because it's kind of fallen off a little bit. Mine was the amount of sticky notes I'd use, right? That was like a measure of how much notes and tasks, because I usually write like my habits or my tasks down on these. And I'd also do the same with papers. I'm always writing down on paper, and just in case I went to the extra mile for you people, I will show you a quick flash of a recording. What you were seeing was a bunch of papers about like it was book analogies, it was analyzing different chapters of the books that I found most helpful. And that center square was about like, it was mentioning the Gauge method covered in the last video, so it was a bit about Spartans and Stoics and the education system, and yeah, so, and then I guess I have a few habit trackers and like YouTube analogy kind of stuff, and my top 3 goals are up there, so it's a lot, right? It's hard to escape because every time I wake up I'm facing that direction. So yeah, I think that was a good way for me to measure, how much papers I have up there. But now I have to think about it a little bit more smartly. I can't just fill my wall because now it's going to be too cluttered and I'm just going to run out of space. So there's a smarter way to do this, and that's what I'm working on. But that was a measure for me, right? I suppose there are much better methods, like paperclip strategy is still far better. And well, like I said, I'm working on it. But the very big main point, surface level I'm trying to get at you that you have to understand is it works on you psychologically, because not only are you trying to enforce this good habit of yours, but it's like that dopamine, right? That dopamine you get when you not only know you're making progress, but you visually see it. Because I know for a lot of people, including me, especially when we work vigorous hours, right? Well, I've been getting to working vigorous hours, trying to work harder, but a lot of the time after we finished working, it doesn't really feel like we've done much. Like, we get it done, we feel good about it, but then sometimes for some people, that's all there is to it, right? But if you can visually see, right, even if it's a weird paperclip, you're consciously aware that you got that paperclip to the other side. You understand? So it's more than just actually doing the habits, but it's visually seeing the progress as well, which makes it in entirety far more enjoyable. Secondly, we have materializing thoughts. Now, sounds weird. I know it's not like you can literally pluck it out of your brain and, sit there and stare at it. But what I mean by materializing thoughts is what I literally just described to you, is writing it down, right? Okay, maybe not all writing it down, but things like you could write it down on a sticky note, you could write it on papers, you can stick them up. Materializing thoughts is putting a gap between you, right? It's something Ryan Holiday is also famous for talking about, right? It's journaling. It could be journaling, it could be a document, it could be a notepad on your laptop, right? Digitally. I like to do it more, paper, because it's even more materialized. But put a gap between you and your thoughts, because for most people, they just think about things. They keep it in this complicated cage, and they think that that's enough, right? And that used to be me for a very long time. And sometimes it's not really necessary to materialize it, right? We're just using the term materialize. But not all the time is it necessary to have to write it down or to put it in. But I find it is just easier to see how you think, to look at it from, I like to say, further lens, but a more distanced perspective. And you get to see yourself think. It's not really something you get to do often, right? And it could be journaling. It could be just simply writing it down. It could be writing down business ideas. You're making it more obvious. You're making it visual. You're materializing it. It's just a matter of making it more than thoughts. But it's up to you whether you want to take another course about journaling. I think that is an awesome practice. And the thing with journaling, just a quick, it's not a side tangent, okay? So forgive me. But if you just want a little bit more information, just in case you're interested, not all the time do you have to write down the entire page or the entire 2 pages, right? Most people start out journaling by low friction. When you start a good habit, I always suggest start low friction, to the point where it's almost insulting, right? Sounds weird, but the truth is, for me, with the first, this might be a bit of a side tangent, okay. I made this habit tracker, right? This list of things the behaviors that I wanted to do. I could do all of those in a day, right? I could actually, the truth is, I could have done them far more advanced. I think I added like 1 push-up. I can do 100. I once did 1,000 in one day, okay? A little bit of a flex, I'm sorry. It was read 1 page. I can read multiple chapters, obviously. It was write 1 thing in my journal. Again, I could write a whole page full of things, right? The point is, lowering the standard to the point where it's almost even insulting, because you know for a fact you can do more, makes you do more. It sounds weird, but the truth is, it's also leaving away, it's just like leaving this gap of leeway, right? It's being a bit lenient, because just in case this bad day or this really negative event happens, it's still not that hard to do. It's super quick to perform, right? 1 push-up, anyone can do 1 push-up a day. But the point is, you have to make it easy to do. That's just how you remain consistent on an easy level. Of course, over time, you start increasing it little, you know, like 1 push-up to 5 push-ups, 5 to 10, you know, just simple stuff like that. But you don't want to make it too difficult, because I know I can do 1,000 push-ups in a day. So if I put 1,000 push-ups and I put like 5 chapters, and I put journal for 2 pages long or for an hour straight, you know, all these kind of stuffs, 20 mindful breaths, I can do all of those, but then it takes up more of my day. Again, just like far more time consuming, far more effortful, and that's me at my maximum effort for each and every single one. So stuff like that's a bit complicated. But secondly, on that note, it's it's not wrong to do more. You read one page, but you might just read the next one. Right? That's what I used to do. Read one page, I feel like it's not enough, so I just continue reading. Sometimes I did only read one page, right? And that's the good part about that leeway. And sometimes I'd never do 1 push-up, you know, I'd at least try to do 50. And journaling, of course I read more. I just read more. And yeah, I mean, like, you're just bound to do more, especially if it's below your standard. But the reason it's important is simply, what if you just have those bad days? And it's quick and it's simple, and still you'll be satisfied even if you only do the very basis and basics of it. But right, onto the third section. Set clear goals and tasks. Right, now, I don't know how many of you have already heard this. The whole point, I want to get behind this, is essentially, the biggest takeaway, at least I have for this, is essentially, when you are not always aware about what it is that you need to do exactly, eventually you're going to find some way to distract yourself, whether that's purposefully or an accident, right? There are a few loopholes when you write it down, when you put it in a note, when you add an alarm to remind yourself, so you can catch yourself. But I say clear goals and clear tasks because you can make it vague, okay? You can make it vague. Something like make $5,000, 5,000 rand, euros, whatever, right? How? It's vague, but you could say make 5,000 online. That's a little bit more accurate, right? You know a few techniques, and then you can write a little subsection underneath it, like SMMA, you know, or get this job, or write the CV, you know, that kind of stuff, basically. It's important to have clear directions, right? I think this is better explained rather than the goal sides than the tasks, right? So that was just it for tasks, so we'll just move that side. But for goals, right? The three most important, again, stuck up on my door. I'm sorry if I always sound like a broken record, constantly repeating the stuff I say. But 3 goals, right? I used to have like 8 or 10 of those, and now I have only 3. The 3 most important. And I mean, sure, right? Like, of course, everyone wants a lot of good traits, you know? If you could just snap your fingers and you have all these nice traits, why not? But the reason it's important to write 10 and then scratch out all the others and focus on core 3, right? And you get to obviously choose that. It's just you're eliminating distractions, right? The others are pretty much nice things to have. But the core 3 are things that are truly important, and all the rest would just be distracting yourself from it. And again, in the video before this, I talked about alignment, right? From things that you do begin to align with things that happen to you and things in your life. The same goes with goals, right? And goals, essentially, especially when they're clear, again, past video, it gives you a sense of purpose and a mission, right? Brilliant thing, an amazing thing. We love that, okay? But just try it, right? Actionable step, right? It's important for me to include these actionable steps because I can't just allow you to be lazy, to just be sitting on your couch or in your bed or on the toilet. I know a lot of people go to the toilet with their devices now. But an actionable step, right? At the end of this video, pause right now and try it right now. Just write down a few goals of yours. It can be silly. It doesn't matter, right? It can be silly, it could be super serious, it could be stuff that means a lot to you, or something that barely means anything to you, but you'd like to have. Write down 8 to 10 goals, right? Things that you like, things that are important, whatever the sort. After you've done that, cross out pretty much everything except 3. You keep the 3 most important, because everything else, like I just described, is going to keep you from those goals. And it feels great, honestly, when you get to see the goals in front of you. Sometimes you might feel a little bit ridiculous, like, really, is this really what I want? You know, you might be questioning about the others. But eventually, once you have it all sorted out, it's a good feeling, knowing what it is that you want. And you become aware each and every morning whether you're actually going for it, whether you're not, what you should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing. And you're just more aware. And you get distracted less because you're more aware. And yeah. So that is the very basis of the psychological. A little bit more controversial is the physical. I made sure to include a gold nugget here, very first, to keep you nice and entertained. First, we have designing your area. And what I mean by design your area, right? Again, in a few past videos, I talked about this just as briefly, and I'll talk about it again. Designing your area, right? Now, I'm going to try my best not to go on a side tangent because there's a lot that could be said, but again, it was made in a past video, so I probably shouldn't go as in detail, at least about the other topics. But there's friction, right? Just put friction. Friction. We have friction with the bad and friction with the good, right? Good, bad. What? Bad habits, good habits, right? What's important is how you manage this friction, right? What you want to do is increase the friction for the bad habits and decrease the friction for the good habits. That's why you design your area. Mine is my room, right? It's nice and away from my family. They don't have to hear me and the embarrassing stuff I say here. They're sleeping right now. That's why I make sure to get up early in the morning so there's no distractions and it's pure quiet with just me and you. Slap myself, hopefully they notice that. And the best I can do is just design my room to make the desired habits easier, right? So, big example of mine is reading. Still got him here. I keep this book right here. What some people do, and which is even better, is they leave their books open, right? They leave them open on the side, sometimes even at the center of their desk, right? I keep 2 pads of sticky notes because these things are amazing if you genuinely just want to take down notes and keep them in front of your face. Sticky notes are awesome. Simple stuff like that, just really, truly simple stuff could be used so productively. It's amazing and I love it. I keep 2 pens, my black and my brown, most 2 used pens, just a plant. I love keeping. I mean, this one's obviously fake, but like, it's just, there's this whole psychology kind of study about how keeping green or involving green in your area just helps improve, I don't know about your workflow, but definitely your mood, right? So I try and involve as much green. I mean, this one's super small, but it's this one is real. But I don't know why that matters. But yeah, so it's growing quite slow. But again, you want to increase the friction of the bad habits, right? All the bad stuff you either want to leave in another room or make it harder to perform. If you're always on your phone, again, just leave your phone in another room or get a friend to come help you, take it away for you and stuff like that, right? That's just a brief example. Another form of designing your area could be cleaning it up, right? Right now, you probably don't know what this looks like. Again, for the sake of the video, just because I want, going to put in that extra effort. What you're about to look at in 3 seconds is what this monstrosity is. Yeah, it's pretty chaotic. But when it doesn't look like this, and so yeah, I try to clean it up, make it look as nice as possible. I try, but it's not clean. It's simplistic. You have to keep it simplistic. You can't have everything on your desk. Designing your area is extremely important, right? And the thing is, very important concept as well. It's technically a side tangent. But eventually the areas that you're involved in become associated with different habits, with different actions, right? Thing is, you don't want to have too many actions in one place. When I read, I try go outside. I try go in nature. I try go to the pool area or in my garden, right? Because that is where I associate quietness, stillness. It's where I try to read in peace. It's not really nice reading here where I usually work and I have notifications popping up and stuff like that, right? And this desk is for working and my bed's for sleeping. Sadly, I can't separate the two because I have nowhere else for this desk. But it's important to be aware of what areas are associated with what. And it's important to take control of that, right? To take back control of these situations and purposefully design which area you want to do what and which areas are associated with what, and cleaning it up and making it simplistic and easy and accessible and all those kinds of things. It used to be far more simple than all of this, but eventually I had to include more elements and take some out. I have a whole, just because, I'm happy with the channel lately. I had this, I love this this pen thing, this pen holder. What do you call this? Pencil holder? Yeah, I had this on my desk, but it looks absolutely monstrous compared to all the other stuff. So of course I just have to keep it in my drawer. And yeah, that is just the very basis of designing your area. And again, technically another separate section would be associated habits with different areas. But just be mindful of that. Pay attention to that, right? And it's just the most important part is just taking back control and purposefully making it the way you design. Secondly, we have very basic, but reminders. Now, yeah, like the next two sections are going to be stuff that you probably could have figured out on your own, but I'm going to do my best to explain it in a way where I guess it's a little bit more convincing. Reminders, right? I have a friend, right? He is my editor, and he sent me the screenshot of like a load of alarms that he had put on for like different sections because he's always on his PC, and that I mean it shocked me because like it looked like a shitload of alarms. I have like 3 alarms, but that's also because another form of a reminder, right? Still on topic, don't worry, is sticky notes, and papers. So mine's a bit more physical, but even digital works well, right? Papers, sticky notes, documents, alarms, even wallpapers and friends, honestly. Wallpapers, immediately as you switch on your phone, you see it, Although I don't actually prefer wallpapers when I did have a phone. Even though it was my wallpaper, it was super easy to ignore. Just didn't do much for me. I know for some people it's quite useful. I've like seen a few kids put like their what was it, like their exam information on their phones, like different timetables and stuff like that. And that works for them. Doesn't work for me. A very effective one I think works for everybody, but no one really wants to do, is with friends or family accounts, your wife, your husband, your kids, your parents, whatever the sort, grandparents. Just asking them to help you, right? Like, could you hide this away from me for like 1 to 2 hours? You're going to the extreme, right? I don't believe it's extreme, but some people do. To just truly enforce this desired habit, right? To increase productivity. That's pretty much all what this is about. And the basis of this is just removing distractions and negative habits from just the very core basis, right? The very basis of just work. Because I believe if you're able to just cut out a shitload of distractions, you're going to work a shit ton more. I guarantee you that. But even I, right? Like I say, even I, as if I think about myself highly, I don't. I'm just getting used to working longer, more difficult hours, and still just not at the level that I want to be. Sometimes I know I should, take a bit of time to genuinely appreciate where how far I've come. You know, because if you're always striving for more, you never pay attention to where you're at. You're always focusing on what's next, what's next, what's next, you know. And again, I'm a big advocate for presence, you know. So it's very important to just take a moment and appreciate where you know, how far you've come. But other than that, yes, that's reminders. I know it's super basic, but truly, if you can just, I guess we're about to dive into the basics right now, but if you can just sweat the small stuff, you would not believe how far that goes. And thirdly, even more controversial, for sure, is just work harder. Yeah, I know. The thing is, right? I'm about to, you know, give you a few tips on working harder, but the truth is, it's easy to say work harder, right? You're told by all these rich guys when they're flashing their Lambos and their watches and all their women and their yachts, you know, stuff like that. And you're just told work harder, but you're not really showed how to work harder, right? And I guess, you know, with these YouTube videos, I'm doing my best to improve the scripts, you know. I'm sure as you've noticed, I've gone from like 3 things to like 6 things or 8 things, you know. So I'm trying to increase the amount of content that I include in the videos, but also the quality of them. Um, and that's something that I'm, you know, again, like I just said, I'm trying to always improve each and every video. And I don't want to give you brief, vague nonsense, right? The cool stuff that you hear, like um, stop drinking, you know, and wear more simplistic clothes. I mean, to be fair, that's what I try to do, but you know, it's just all these like these vague things. But it's like, how does that make me more rich or a higher quality person? You know, it's vague, and I don't want to be that kind of guy. So I know I just got on a side tangent about how, you know, I want to be, but fine, let's focus on you again, right? Work harder. Now, there's a few things that I could say about this. There was the technique from Better Ideas that I'd mentioned a few videos later, where I just basically took a bit of his content, so I apologize. I did give him credit though. And it's just the concept of easing into it, right? He calls it submission. And briefly explained once more without using all his content is just getting yourself to just, even if you're like in a massive struggle, right? If you just have this massive level of resistance to do this thing that you don't want to do, you stop trying so hard and you accept it. You just accept the way things are. You accept your way into it, right? With reading, even if I really don't want to read, it's not impossible to just take my book and just open it up, you know? And it's easing into it. It's more like trying less hard. And that's just give that a shot, right? I find that it's actually an interesting concept that I don't think people talk about enough. But that's just one, right? Secondly, we have mastering the basics. Right? Sounds stupid. It probably sounds stupid. But the truth is, a lot of people, like a few minutes ago, I'd mentioned sweating the small stuff. I believe a lot of people get so excited to the point where they try and do that high quality stuff, right? That they see all the other YouTubers doing, and that's what they want to be doing, right? They want to be working the vigorous hours, and they want to be on their laptops or their PCs, you know, for like 7 hours straight, forgetting to eat, and then popping out for like 2 minutes, and then going back and then grinding again, you know, the grind. But the thing is, like, they're also the kind of people who haven't mastered the basics. It sounds weird, but what I mean by that is things like sleep, things like food, things um, like basic good habits, right? Reading, journaling, you know, doesn't always have to be journaling, doesn't always have to be you know what? Actually, include reading, okay? Reading underestimated, truly. I believe everyone should start reading. It's brilliant. You One of the best pieces of advice I could give on this channel is just buy a book about something that interests you, and you'll begin to see. Or about, you know, self-help, self-improvement, that kind of stuff, right? But anyways, mastering the basics. For me, I had only recently started to work a little harder when it comes to my sleep, right? And truly, it was game changing when I, started to. I used to wake up loads of times middle in the night, and I used to feel so unenergized, and it was so difficult to actually work hard because I was tired, exhausted. I felt burnout almost, right? But it wasn't actual burnout because I didn't actually work for it. But now I'm, burning out all the time. But anyways, and foods, I've finally come up with this small little system that I've built to ensure that I don't eat before I record or before I do my difficult task. Just so I stay hungry, stay energized, and if I really want to get it done, I work harder and harder and harder until I finally get it done, so I can pop out and go eat, like right now, honestly. And things like reading and basic good habits, again with that habit list, like I mentioned, the very basics: one push-up, one page, one sentence in your journal, right? You begin to just get good at that, and then slowly over time improve. Because I know, right, there might be some adults watching this, but I know especially for the teenagers, you get just too excited, man. You get too excited, and that's been me. That has been me. You just get too excited. You want to do all the high quality, cool stuff, like working all those hours and grinding hours in the gym as well simultaneously, but you can't, right? It's not more or less you can't. Some people do find success, right? But I suggest don't take that risk of trying to be one of those people. I'm not trying to downplay you, to weaken you, to hold you back. I'm just saying it's going to be a massive waste of time. I've wasted months upon months just because I haven't mastered the basics. And just start there, right? You will see difference. I promise you, you will see difference very quickly. I'd say start with sleep, work on food. Once you've covered those two, begin to work on the basics of good habits, simple, easy, yet acceptable. Work like that, and I promise you, once you learn how to sweat the small stuff, you truly do see how far they go. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a wrap. We've covered psychological and physical. I hope this was a good video. I did my best. Again, psychological does have physical involvement, but it works a bit more with your mind. Physical sounds super basic, but they really, really do go a long way. I'm not bullshitting you. I've done every single one of these things, so I'm credible for what I had said. And before we end this video, right, before we cave to our terrible attention spans, thing with the basics, right? Just one extra side tangent. How could you expect or even imagine being someone great or doing great things when you haven't mastered the basics, right? If you don't make your bed every morning, if you can't master sleep, if you can't do basic good habits, how do you ever expect to be a man of great power or influence, right? Just someone great. It doesn't have to be a man, right? How do you expect to be someone great without discipline, without knowing discipline, without experiencing discipline, without having discipline? I promise you, you truly, truly do see how far the small stuff can go. And if you've already mastered that stuff, then great. Then you're already at that stage. Then you're already at that stage in which you can start moving on to the cooler, more big stuff. Good for you, truly, good for you. I guess that's it. So, thank you for watching. Hope you've had a brilliant day or a brilliant night, wherever you are in the world. And I guess I don't really have a new special quote for you today, so let's go with the old one. Don't compare. Compete.